Hey guys, welcome back to RHR Jen. I'm so glad you're here. I have enjoyed so much my sit down with John Witherspoon, so I'm going to continue that on today. A huge thank you to everybody who's left such wonderful, kind comments for him. Make sure you keep those coming. I'll make sure that he sees them and is aware of the nice things you guys are saying. And we're going to just continue on talking about all the craziness that's going on with Harry and Meghan. Thank you so much, John, for your time and your thoughtful answers. Make sure you're giving him the follow on Instagram. He's at Witherspoon DC. Thanks again. Since we were talking about security as well, I want to bring up something that you mentioned that I thought was interesting, and that was Harry and flying commercial. Now, I believe he had used previously his excuse when called out on his hypocrisy once again of preaching climate change, but then flying private so often. He cited security. But you had an interesting point about Harry and flying. Do you remember what you talked about with that?
Well, I don't think, yeah, I do remember. And I think it was the comment that I made about being in a high compliance area.
Mm-hmm.
There are places that you go, that we all go, that are a little bit more free-spirited. You can kind of get away with what you want. Mm-hmm. And then there are what they call high compliance areas, such as airports. Mm-hmm. We all have to suffer the indignity of going through the security screening at airports. Some of us are more frustrated by that than others are. The same thing is true, knock on wood, of the street in front of an elementary school.
Right.
Where the speed limit has been set lower. Mm-hmm. Or, there's a playground. Mm-hmm. Chances are good that the police are going to treat that as a high compliance area.
Sure.
I don't get the sense that Harry deals well with high compliance areas where you have to sort of tone down your ego, tone down your, I want this, I want that. Well, an airport is not the place on either side of the security, incidentally. If you cause trouble at the ticket counter, well, they don't have a lot of tolerance for that either. So I think that Harry's probably the type of person that just has a very difficult time dealing with a very rigid set of rules and expectations and acceptable behaviors.
Yeah.
I think he probably, and Meghan the same way, probably. I think Harry more so than Meghan. And again, just my opinion on all of this.
Sure.
But I think that he probably has a very difficult time being told, you may not do this. Put your seatbelt on. Take your headphones out.
Right.
Put your tray up. Mm-hmm. Pull your seat up. Stand up, sit down. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just cannot fathom having to deal with that. And my opinion and my suspicion is that Harry's probably one of those people.
Oh, I would completely agree for so many reasons. Yeah, I feel strongly that you're absolutely right. I don't think he could comply. I don't think he would like the scrutiny that he would face. Like, I'm not making him a victim. I'm saying like he perceived scrutiny of those around him. I think he would act petulant. Why can't I stand up right now? Why can't I go about, just expect things out of.
Absolutely. And you know what, one of I'm going to mischaracterize this. So, make a big caveat, but there's the report from, and again, he may have his pilot's license. Mm-hmm. I have never seen any evidence of the fact that he has a pilot's license.
Right.
To fly fixed wing, helicopter, whatever it is. All the allegations are that he tried to get a pilot's license and he could not pass it. And they bent over backwards in the military to make sure that he got it. And he just apparently couldn't do it, allegedly. But there's a story, and I think he wrote about it in his book, in Spare, where he expressed a lot of frustration that when he was taking flying lessons in flight school, he got very frustrated because the instructor was always telling him things. And he found that very off-putting.
Right.
And it's like, hey, man,
It's because the instructor doesn't want to die.
Yeah, yeah. And the instructor's trying to help you not die either.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to be known as the instructor who was
Yeah.
Prince Harry's instructor, and Prince Harry
Right.
had something very unfortunate happen.
Exactly.
There's so
Yeah.
it's just weird. It's
I
very
agree.
weird.
I agree completely. I agree completely. Let's see, continuing on. So the next point you made, which I thought was a great point, and that's about people who quit smoking, people who quit drinking or substances or just quit things in general, they usually can't wait to tell you about it. Reminder, I have a weight loss channel. I did. I'll tell you all about it. No, if
Yeah,
you change your behavior, if you feel like it's you're not in the right path and you change it, you want to tell people about the change. So
absolutely,
I can relate to
absolutely.
that. So what are your
And,
thoughts?
and
Yeah.
and I just think about being on Facebook, for instance, or Instagram, whatever it is, or you're being at a party, and you talk to people, and they are so thrilled if they've been to Alcoholics Anonymous. They want to pull their coin out and show you, I have been sober for 8 years. I got my 10-year coin or whatever it is that they post on Facebook. My daughter, I have a great friend whose daughter apparently has been sober for 3 years, and
Oh,
she's in her mid to late 20s at this point. And he posted that, and I was so thrilled to read that.
that's really good.
And the same thing about, I haven't had a cigarette for the longest time, on and on and on and on. I just find it shocking that we've never heard anything, at least I have never heard anything like that from Harry. He's an
Yeah.
admitted user of
Substances. Yeah.
substances, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, and not just lightweight stuff either.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Talking about hallucinogens and so forth, if I recall correctly. And for all the the chest thumping that he goes through about, oh, we need to protect children, we need to do this, and yet here's this gaping hole that he could easily say, you know what, I really wish I hadn't gotten involved in drugs and alcohol and cigarettes and everything else. To my knowledge, he has never said anything like that.
I don't believe
And
so.
again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
I would be thrilled to be, corrected and say, oh, you know what? He really has been on an anti-smoking campaign, especially, teenage smoking or teenage drinking or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And yet he's off doing all this other stuff. And
Right.
again, as we've talked about, what was some of the circumstances? What was a major, apparently contributing factor to Diana's demise? It was alcohol,
Exactly.
among other things.
Sure.
But you would think that that would be a perfect thing for him to be a very strong advocate about, and yet
That's
he's
it.
not. He's not.
Exactly. Exactly. And to your point, I think you had made the point, I don't mean to steal but I just thought it was so good that it would actually it would give him more credibility. And it would
Absolutely.
actually give him a topic to speak on with some authority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, you see people out in his very backyard in Hollywood, Los Angeles, in California, celebrities, movie stars who have, musicians, whoever it is. I have been through a lot. I have really, really struggled mightily, but I finally kicked this.
Mhm.
I'm a better person for it. I'm glad that I did it. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Yep.
We've all heard it. We've all seen it. It's
Mhm.
very, very powerful
I
and
agree.
heartfelt.
Uh-huh. That's right.
So,
And I mean, in a weird way, it could give him purpose, but he just,
oh yeah,
so I wouldn't, that one's hard to speculate on. I don't like to speculate on that. I'm just wondering why not, unless we don't know, but unless maybe he's just not wanting to give up whatever it is. I don't know. Weird.
yeah.
find it weird, but I thought that was an interesting point. I think that that's a really good point.
Yeah. People usually really like to bang the drum when
Yeah,
they've kicked a habit of some sort, or
agreed.
when someone that they love has kicked a habit. And
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, and I mean, again, I can speak to this one for 1 second, but yeah, I mean, if you guys are new here, I know you know I talk about it all the time. I lost 150 pounds. I've been there. Like I've had the addiction, and then, I want to say I overcame it, but do you ever overcome it? I don't know. I'm 2 years out. You know what I mean? Like of working every day on it. And so I don't know, but I just know I won't stop talking about it because that's the only thing that keeps me accountable and keeps
yeah,
me, I mean, one of the things that keeps me, besides my counseling, that keeps me accountable. That's how you do it. And plus I just always think, gosh, I went through so much. It can't be for nothing. Maybe I can help somebody. That's all
right.
I want to do. Maybe I can help myself and somebody else.
Yep.
And so I can't imagine. I just don't know if he's wired up like that. I just don't know. I don't know. So. Okay, so another thing you pointed out, let's see here. Oh, we had talked about just a minute ago about emotional intelligence. Now I've pulled this. These are times when Harry has discussed people's lack of emotional intelligence. And I find that so funny. And I know we're all over the place right now, but I had to write that down because he can talk about people's lack of emotional intelligence, but he cannot acknowledge his own.
Well, you know, one of the terms that you hear talked about in pop psychology, and it's more than just pop psychology. I mean, it's real psychology. There's a study that was done by two people. One was Dunn, the other one was Kruger, and they talk about it as the is it Dunn? Dunning.
Dunning,
And
yeah.
the Dunning-Kruger effect is what people talk about. And basically what that is the notion that you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And the lower your intelligence is, and I think it probably applies equally to intellectual intelligence and also to emotional intelligence, the more of a deficit that you have, the less likely you are to realize that you have a deficit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're if you have high emotional intelligence, if you have high intellectual intelligence, you are constantly in a state of self-doubt, saying, have I missed something here? I don't know what I don't know. Am I overreacting? You're constantly checking yourself, and you're so aware of your shortcomings. But I think Harry is in that lower end of the scale where, because I suspect he has such deficits, my opinion,
Sure.
I also suspect that this is the reason why he, thinks so highly of himself.
Yeah, I think so. You know what's funny about that? I'm again, if you're new here, talking to the flock, if you're new here, I talk about I do have a background in psychology where I studied a bunch of psychology. And one of the things I remember from studying psychology is not always, but typically they found people that do score lower on, things like intelligence, they actually are rated happier because I think they don't know to stress about everything and they don't realize that maybe they're messing everything up. But I find that funny and in conflict with what, we don't know Harry, but what we know of Harry, it doesn't seem like he's the happiest. He seems dim and angry, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people who go through life just sort of like as a leaf traveling down the stream, and they just happy-go-lucky, and whatever happens, and that's all well and good. But if you on the other hand, if you have that kind of philosophy about life, and then on the other hand, you're constantly demanding to be listened to,
Yeah.
and to be viewed as an authoritative source on things, there's a disconnect there, and it's frustrating for people.
I think so. Yeah, maybe that's how it's manifesting, is him being so him being him. It manifests itself when he goes to court, right?
Well, it has in the past. Yeah, let's hope for better results this time in
That's
terms of
right.
his performance, or maybe not, depending on what you.
That's right. It'll be fun to watch either way. I can't wait to read or can't wait to hear your report back on that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
We had two more thoughts as we wrap this up. The first one was, let's see, you talked about recently, and I'll let you talk about how much you want to say or don't want to say, but an experience you had where you had to make an apology. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Through it, I mean, I'll try and condense the story, but through it, I was in court last week, unexpectedly, and dressed not. There's a common phrase that's used in the U.S. where people talk about court appropriate attire. I was not wearing court appropriate attire, and I ended up in court, and I was wearing a pair of muddy hiking boots, a pair of dirty jeans, a fleece top, and through a random series of events, I was asked to get up and speak to the judge. And, if there are lawyers listening, that's probably very jarring and so forth. But this was basically it was a sentencing scenario where they were asking for community input and so forth. And that's how this all transpired. But the judge knew that I was there, and the judge picked me out of the spectator area in the courtroom and said, "Would you like to come up and say a few words?" And I thought, okay, well, again, I didn't even plan to be here. And I didn't really plan to speak. I was more there for curiosity. Anyway, the first thing I did when I got up to speak was that I addressed the court, and I said, Your Honor, I want to start by apologizing for my attire, because I did not expect to be speaking with you today. And he was this was the chief judge in the circuit court of the county. So basically the senior judge for the whole county of 1 million people. And he was, "Oh, no, don't think about it at all. Don't apologize. It's fine. It's fine. I'm more interested in what you have to say." Anyway, I ended up speaking for 5 or 10 minutes, and there was actually some discourse back and forth between me and the judge. And I told some people this story, and they said, you probably did yourself an enormous favor by sort of humbling yourself right out of the gate and saying, "Judge, I apologize. Again, I didn't plan to be here. I didn't plan to. If I knew I was going to be speaking with you, I would not be dressed like the way I am." Anyway, several people pointed out to me, they said, that probably was so powerful for the judge that you actually were, you had some humility, and you started out by, just saying, "I'm a small cog in a big wheel here," whatever analogy you want to use. The thing that's relevant, I think, for the Harry and Meghan situation is that I don't ever recall Harry having apologized for much of anything. And I can only think about how differently the world would receive him and his ideas and his comments and so forth if he had just the slightest degree of humility. And if he would say, "You know what, I put some stuff in that book that I really wish I hadn't put in there. I've made some comments on television that I wish I hadn't made.
I wore a costume I shouldn't have worn."
Yeah.
Instead, he blames William and Catherine. Yeah, no humility. Yeah.
Right. And I thought that was just a very interesting sort of thought exercise that, you can get so much mileage out of just being a little bit normal, if not a little bit humble and a little bit apologetic about, and it's I mean, I was genuinely embarrassed when I was in court. I thought, oh, geez, this is not
Mhm.
the way to go into court and address the
Right.
judge. But at the same time, I think it really worked out. As I said, he seemed very receptive to what I had to say, even engaged in some discourse. And, you bring up you bring up a very interesting point. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I've thought of that myself. And I'm glad, you also mentioned XYZ, and I had forgotten about that. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and really appreciate you standing up and,
Mm.
helping me to think through all of this. And
That's good.
again, if Harry would engage in a little bit of
Mhm.
that type of behavior,
Mm.
by accident, as was the case with me, or on purpose,
Mm.
just to sort of throw himself on the mercy of the world,
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be in the difficult place that he is.
Agree. I think this so neatly ties back in what we were saying though about emotional intelligence. I think what you did was see the big picture of respecting where you were and the situation and knowing how to talk to the judge. I just don't think Harry it, I don't think he's capable. I think he's just so only sees Harry and Meghan, nothing else,
That's
victim,
right.
so.
That's right. Well, and again, it goes back also to the sort of oddball upbringing that he had, where he has not had the opportunity, I don't think, to understand
Mhm.
and to observe possibly um, the benefit of. I mean, we've all, most of us
Uh-huh.
have remember when we were younger and um, going to our parents and saying, "I screwed up.
Oh, yeah.
I've done something wrong." I had to do that just recently, and I I I dropped something on a windshield of
Uh-huh.
a public safety vehicle,
Oh, no.
a government-owned vehicle, and I just thought, "Oh, please, 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 tell me that didn't just happen." And there's no escaping it. It happened. There's a
Mhm.
broken windshield, not broken, but cracked windshield.
Mhm.
And I thought, there is no way that this is going to get unnoticed. I guarantee at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning at the latest, this is going to get found.
Mhm.
There's absolutely no escaping this.
Mhm.
What is the best possible escape route that I have, other than denying it or lying about it? I mean, all of which is, I mean, I'm going to get found out.
Mhm.
Just absolutely, positively, 100% certainty. This is going to get found out. And I just thought, all right, well, start apologizing.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did.
Mhm.
I went to see the officer in charge.
Mhm.
I've I've made a mistake. I'm
Yeah.
really sorry.
Mhm.
Please put this in your starter report.
Mhm.
Here are the circumstances. I will write to your superior, send it up the chain of command. This is what happened. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I'll pay for it.
Mhm.
Let me know if it needs to go to the glass shop.
Mhm.
I'll take it. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it worked out fine. I mean, I know people were just like, as anybody does, but it's just the way you handle things like that.
That's it. We
It
all make
just is the way.
mistakes.
You cannot stick your head in the sand. You cannot avoid it.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not sure that Harry is a type of person who can think through a scenario like that
Mhm.
and understand the value of an apology, the value of humility.
That's going to do it for this part of my sit down with John Witherspoon. Be sure to come back tomorrow as I have more. We got into such interesting conversations about, I mean, so much, all the stuff that they're up to, stuff with William and Catherine, and what's going on with Harry and Meghan, and the weirdness around the kids and the hypocrisy, just all the stuff. So I can't wait for you to see the next part of this. And again, a huge thank you to John Witherspoon, friend of the channel, for the time you took, the time you spent talking to me, and all your thoughtful answers. Make sure you give him that follow on Instagram at Witherspoon DC. And I can't wait to bring you more stuff like this. I'll see you in the next part of this. Bye-bye.